Testing. Whoops. Okay, just a second here. I'm going to change some settings on the stream. Edit video, that's where it is. Stream number 3. Okay, hello, welcome. This is the weekly Q&A game development stream. So for those of you who haven't been here yet, which is probably most people, basically what this is I go ahead and I work on the current game I'm working on. It doesn't have a name right now, so the project name for it is just SKRPG. It's an acronym. And so what I do is, again, I work on this game live for an hour, and if I see any questions in the YouTube comments, then I answer them. Basic Q&A. So all I'm going to do right now is get started, and I will try my best to give a commentary on what I'm working on. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the stream for me here so I can see the comments, and then I will just get started. Okay, so let me go ahead and give a little background about the work I have been doing. This past week I haven't been getting to the game a lot, just because I've been very busy. But, well, here are the things that I've been working on, right? So actually, for the entire span of this game, I had been working with a pesky steering behavior here, and it's been really frustrating me because I have got the logic down, I think. It's just it has some bugs that make it kind of, it doesn't feel like a game feature, it feels like a buggy feature, basically. So it feels like the concept is there, but something is wrong. And I guess I can show you that in just a minute. So okay, so what I'm going to do is just go ahead and hop into my my writer here. So there's writer. And I just have this local avoidance controller script. Been working on this for the past forever, and you know, it gets better each time I work on it. I reach a new point every time I work on it. And the thing is, when I made this, I did go by example, which is the part that I find a little frustrating. So somewhere I've got something configured wrong to make my characters behave weird. And the thing is, I actually have a more sophisticated version of this collision avoidance algorithm, because most of them only account for a one line forward. So basically, in most cases, if you think about a Unity implementation, the character will just fire a raycast forward and then say, if there's something in the way, I'm going to push myself to the right, and I'm going to multiply that by some factor based off of my distance from the object. So the closer I am to the object, the more force I should use to push myself away, which is, you know, makes perfect sense, right? Imagine, let me just visualize it for you. Imagine if I'm flying into this asteroid, I would want, and the closer that I am to it, the more I would want to thrust to the side to get out of its way, right? Just because, I mean, if you're closer to the asteroid, you're going to hit it, so you think, oh shit, I'm going to move to the right. For example, when people drive into me, I swerve all the way to the left to avoid getting killed. So that's an example. Anyway, to be to be serious here, let me just go ahead and show you what is going on here. So first thing I'm going to do is actually link back the behavior for clicking to let my interceptor here basically move where I click, right? So it's set up to just be an AI fire test player. I'm going to remove that. There's an AI destination test player. And I think that is the right, that's weird. Pretty sure that's the right script to have on here. It should just let me, if I click, then it should go to the, okay, actually, you know what, I might have moved to point destination. Where's my move to? I thought I had a move to point destination. Does move to point use the wrong? Oh yeah, that's why it's using test seek. So I was working on something. So let me show you what the actual behavior is. So I'm going to click somewhere. The interceptor will go there, and I have a pretty sophisticated debugging system for, or I guess visualization of it for debugging. So it'll show like a box in front of my interceptor that's like, where is he going? And it'll also show a box that points in how much force is being applied to push him over. So one thing that's weird is this kind of behavior of you see that rotation? That's a little strange. I don't recall that being there, but it is there now, so that's one thing I need to work out. So here's another thing. So looks kind of right? I mean, like, he goes to the asteroid, he sees collisions, he moves, right? So if I... Right, so then, but one weird issue is this kind of, like, spiraling behavior, which obviously is because, and you don't see it as bad now, actually. I think the reason why is because I've lowered the force factor. But basically, if the point is too close to the player, then it's just going to keep trying to reach that point, because look, it's seeing how this works right now is if I see something in my box, I'm going to push myself to the right of it, you know, to the right of, I guess it's not to the right, it's kind of a perpendicular line, but it's always a perpendicular line that's going right or east or positive on the x, or not positive on the x-axis, but positive on the x-axis relative to that force vector. So the kind of lingo for it is it's a little hard to describe, I'm going to be honest, but basically a line should, you'll see that force box there. There's another box that appears when he's colliding. He's trying to move that way. So whenever it hits something, it'll move that way, which is sort of to the right of the thing that's being hit. And so that happens obviously because it can't reach that destination. All it figures out is, wait, I'm trying to get there, but there's something in the way, so I'm going to move right out of its way, and it keeps doing that over and over and over again. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do something that some people might consider shameful, which is I'm going to look at examples. I'm going to ask for help, right? So many people have already implemented this outside of Unity. I've tried to follow their example. And I would just go and use a random asset, but I don't want this system to just be following a path, or I should say following a velocity and setting it directly. What I want is for each ship to eventually use its thrusters realistically. Now I might not end up doing that, but I'm going to try to go for that once I get like a basic implementation of this going. But you know, it's one of those we'll see we'll see type deals. So that's why I'm not just using a random library. What I want is for this to work correctly, and then I want it to work elegantly, and I want the code to look good, and I want it to be very simple to implement this, not just for me but for anybody. And then I want to build off of that to make it possible to implement the actual force, to make it move based off of how you would choose. So in my case, what I would choose is that I have, let's say, 4 directional thrusters, and I want the ship to use whichever one is most appropriate, and I want the ship to rotate in the direction to make the most appropriate thruster push it away from the asteroid. So that's kind of what I've been working on. And yeah, it is a pain in the ass, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start looking at other people's examples, and I'm going to see why theirs are working better and if they're working better, and I'm going to see how to make mine follow the appropriate algorithm with my implementation that is based off of a box rather than a point, and so on. So I'm going to also show you the other thing I've been working on, which is more creative and has been kind of more fun to deal with. And that's kind of why I did it, is because I've been dealing with this issue. So I've been working on this this thing. It's right now it's named an Osprey. You know, these names might change and they might move around. But one of my favorite games used to name every machine or like unit based off of like an animal or some like concept, and so I'm very into that kind of behavior of like saying, oh, this one's the Osprey, this one's the Condor, etc., etc. So this one, basically the idea of this one is to be a gunship with a railgun on it, right? So what I'm thinking is that the behavior will be this ship will fly in very close to something. And then once it gets close, it'll kind of hover near it and follow like sort of an orbit. So it'll be kind of orbiting the character, but it won't necessarily just like spin around the character. It might just stay within like a 45-degree kind of orbit, if that makes any sense. So kind of like imagine between these two parts of the orbit range, it'll go between that and around there. Push itself to the side, left and right, or I guess I should say clockwise, rotating around the character. And so while it does that, it'll have this railgun here, which will charge up every so often and fire. But the rest of these guns here, these will rotate and fire backwards or forward, whichever direction that the player is going. So these are all rotary guns, which none of the other ships have had that so far. So I'm interested in adding that. This was just concept art to see what would happen if I made it more sharp. And I actually did make it a little bit more sharp in some areas, and I'll show you the final example, which is kind of split up into multiple sprites. And the purpose of that is so that some of them can rotate separate from each other, especially the guns. This right here is something I made actually earlier. This one's supposed to be called the Zephyr. The idea behind this one is that it'll thrust very fast out of position, then stop, and then it'll line up and aim this. This is a beam. This one's a beam gun, and these are the thrusters. So like it'll shoot its thrusters forward, and then once it lands near something, it'll stop, and then it'll just use a very heavy beam gun, and then while that charges, it'll reposition itself if necessary. So that's just kind of the fun art stuff that I've been doing. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and quit Illustrator here. And I will proceed to yeah, deal with this issue that I don't particularly want to deal with, but I will. So here's one sample actually that I looked at 3 years ago. So I'm curious to see how this guy's sample works. I'll show you his and hopefully I'm actually allowed to do it. I mean, he's got a license. He says use it how you want to. So let me show you how he's got a collision avoidance here, and you know that, like, notice how close they get without really worrying about like, you know, they don't spin around, they don't have some weird behavior, they just kind of shove over once something's in the way. So I'm gonna see if I can make something, you know, work more similarly to this. So let me just go ahead and look back at his code here, and let's see like why his you know, system works like better. And I've actually just decided what I think I'm going to do is actually create a new Unity project for the sake of, oh, sorry, Anton, showing your picture around. But I think what I'm going to do is actually just go ahead and take a look at his project. Just make a new project and take a look at it. So Let's go ahead and download this. Or maybe I should actually look at the releases. Version 2.0, January 5th. Yeah, you know what, I'll just download this one. Oh wait, you know what, he doesn't have a... It's fine, I'll use the source code, whatever. Okay. So I'm gonna actually open Unity into a new project here. And I'm gonna try to be cool here and make this called collision avoidance study. And I wonder what version he used, actually. January 5th. Oh, this is 3 years ago. I don't want to deal with importing to 2018 actually, so I'm going to use an older version. Yeah, I'll do that. He's got 3D, so I'll need to convert it actually. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. You know what, for the sake of organization, let's close this Unity. Nothing to save here. Let's close, let's close Writer, I'll just reopen it. Nope, there are no assets. Oh yeah, because I forgot I downloaded the source. Okay, so let's open that. Okay. Packages. Oh wait, he's got the Unity package in his source code. That's strange. Okay. Sure, why not? Hopefully it's not an old package. January 5th. Well, it doesn't look like one. It's got the date on it, so I think we're good. Okay, so does he have any examples in here? Models, materials, prefabs. Prefabs, spawner. Let me see if he has a setup scene. If I search example, no example. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, you can find it here. Flocking. Flocking's a fun one. Actually, this is definitely in progress. That's sort of yeah, this is the same thing. Oops. I'm gonna browse his source. I thought this had a I thought I saw an example in here somewhere. Yeah, examples. So this Unity package doesn't have the examples. Huh. I wonder if these are actually linked to the same assets. I feel like it'll break this way. Oh no, they're working. Okay, he actually has 2D implementations, which is good because that's what I'm going to be doing, so. Okay, so he has, let's see his collision avoidance. Okay, that is this one. Okay, so let's see, collision avoid unit 1. Let's see what it has. He's got collision avoid unit, steering basics, follow path, collision avoidance, movement AI, rigid body 2D, okay. Collision avoid unit. So what I'm going to do first is, I'm just going to browse this code for a little bit, but I'm going to, while Writer starts up, I'll just make sure this behavior is actually working. So, okay, so these are following a path. They hit each other, they move. And yeah, notice how it's, this is a one-line implementation. It doesn't have a box based off of the actual character size, so they will hit each other. And sometimes they won't detect things that they will hit. So, yeah. Which is fine. The thing about a box implementation is that you sort of get that rotating behavior, which is annoying. But you also get the assurance that it'll notice something if it's going to hit it. So, I don't know. You kind of have a trade-off there. I wonder if it's possible to get around that with the box, but we'll see. Okay, so let's see. What if I... Is there one of these where the character is following the cursor? Seek. I'm just going to give one of these a seek unit and make them follow the player. Let's see. Actually, you know what I'll do is duplicate one of these guys. You know, I don't think I want any of these guys moving around, actually. I'm going to disable all their... I'm just going to disable their movement. Is that going to work? Collision avoid unit. Steering basics. I'll remove follow path. Do they have a... Where is their path actually set? Follow path. Path direction 1. Okay, well, I'm going to remove this. Okay, so the path is interesting. That's a weird place to put the path. Oh, okay. So it's kind of like a dirty implementation where he like throws the path in here and then... Oh wait, I see. Collision avoid unit. Okay, so he's... So this is kind of like the external developer putting a example in. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and look at let's see. Collision avoid sensor fixed update. I'm just gonna disable that. I'm gonna remove follow path and just... Did I copy them? That was weird. Follow path unit 2, 1, 1. Oh, these are the duplicated ones. Wow, I'm not paying attention. Okay. Okay. Or did I delete an extra one? You know what? I'm just gonna reload this scene. Discard changes. Okay. Follow path unit. So one of these is following a path and the rest of them are collision avoiding. Which one's following a path? Because they all look like they're following paths. One of these just isn't avoiding, I think. So here's follow path unit. Look where you're going. Okay. If follow path dot is end of path, then reverse path. Okay, there's follow path dot get steering is the difference here, right? The rest of it looks like it's the same. No, collision avoidance sensor dot targets. Okay. So the acceleration just changes, I see. Okay, so let's add, let me see if there's a prefab for a seek unit. Prefab. prefabs 2D. There's seek unit. Target. No, I'm changing this. Mouse seeker. So I'm just going to make a quick script that makes this follow the mouse. Let's say seek unit target. You know what, actually we'll just attach it to a component. Hello, yes, I am making a 2D game. What you're seeing on my screen is, yes, so I'm working on currently a top-down like space RPG. Right now, I can show you the actual game later. Right now what I'm doing is going through somebody else's project, and I'm looking through his steering behaviors, so. What I'll do is I'll load up the other project while I'm doing this, and I'll show you it in just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to change this to a wake. Wake, grab the attached seek unit. Oh, that's searchy. Hello. And then yeah, we'll do fixed update. Let's say the, yeah, so let's say the mouse position equals input.mouse position. Actually, we need the world position. Dot screen to world point mouse pose. By the way, don't use this. That's actually a tag search. It's pretty inefficient. Possible, yeah, and that too. Okay, so screen to world point, seek unit. Actually, this should, okay, so I'm going to call that appropriately. Oh, private seek unit equals, actually, seek unit. Okay, so then I'm going to do just every seek update, seek unit dot, you know what, fine. I don't like this implementation, but it doesn't really matter because I'm going to throw it all away. So equals world position, okay? So, oops, that's the wrong game. Where's my other Unity? There it is. Okay, so let's see. Collision avoidance unit 1. Seek unit. Okay, so I see a target. And this one has the mouse seeker, so in theory, where is this guy? Let me move him away. So assuming that this one will just follow the mouse, yes, and it does, okay. Not exactly how I want to, but it'll do for now. Okay, so that one follows the mouse. I'm gonna go ahead and only enable like one of these, actually. Okay, so that one follows this path. And then it like moves off to the side. This thing needs to stop moving. You know what? There's no reason for this to actually seek, so I'm just gonna turn off the mouse seeker, turn off seek unit, and I'm gonna move it in the way of this path. This needs to be in 2D. Okay, so I'm just gonna see what this does. Okay. Yeah, it has that jittering that I'm not too fond of. You should be kinematic. It's getting pushed around. Okay, so let me see. So he has a collision avoidance unit, which is where this entire stack is starting. So let's see. Steering basics, follow path, collision avoidance. Okay, so we draw the path. If we're at the end of the path, then reverse the path, which means start over from basically go in reverse, which is that actually just applying a radar? Yeah, okay. Literally just reverses it, and then but the path doesn't change. He just keeps okay. I really don't like this name. Don't judge me, I'm refactoring code, I'm gonna delete. Okay, steering controller, dot steer, accelerate, look forward. Collision avoid sensor. Oh, that's not good. Okay, what is this? Is this actually a trigger and not a raycast? Oh, it is. Okay. I guess it doesn't matter. Excel equals get steering targets. Okay, so collision avoid sensor is the near sensor. And whatever, oh, I see. So he's not using a raycast, he's just finding multiple targets and picking whichever one is closest, probably, and using that one, which you should do with an overlap prism, but that's fine. Let me see. So where is he setting targets? Late update. Excel equals targets. He's not, where is he? Oh, that's why it's a get. Okay, so where is he setting targets? Remove where is null. Okay, so remove any target that is null when you get it. This, I'm guessing, removes every single one. Hash set. Oh, it's a hash set. Oops, I'm not paying attention. Okay, so try to add. So when do we call try to add? Yeah, whenever it, okay, so whenever this hits a trigger, it adds it to the things. Whenever it exits, it should remove it, yeah. Figures. Okay, so it's just whatever it's in the way. We calculate steering based off of whatever is in the way. Question is, how do we calculate steering? Okay, so acceleration equals vector 3.0. So I'm really curious is how this compares to my system. And actually, what I'm going to do to my system is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reset my Yeah, I'm changing my changes back so that I can see how my system was working before. Okay. Okay, so something is... that change is still there. But yeah, basically... basically it's buggy. Not much else to say. I don't know why that... Actually, I think the collider on that asteroid is just wrong. Oh, no, that's weird. It's right. Okay. But yeah, basically just if the closer you are to an object, the harder it gets pushed away, or at least it used to. It might have changed that, and for some reason resetting it in Git didn't fix that. Okay, so I need to open my code actually. So I should have another writer. Oh, no, it opens in the same writer. I need to open a separate project. Okay, anyway, so let's see. So I have a get a version force if obstruction found. Max force factor, whichever one is bigger if the hit distance is larger than... Wait, actually that looks like an incorrect calculation. Because if max force factor is smaller, then it goes farther. So shouldn't this be minimum because whichever one... Excuse me. Did I do this? Did I do that wrong? That's the wrong unity. This is already getting confusing. I don't need this one running. How did I get back here? Okay. Okay, so yeah, the thing is, if the distance is lesser than the regular force factor, then, oh. Okay. Okay. Let's... Huh. Okay. Actually, that appears to have made it work a lot better. Which does not make it good, but, you know. And I'm getting this not a number problem, actually, so... let me see why I'm getting that. It should be... Why did I do max? I'm confused as to why... Oh, I did it because... Oh, no, this should be max. Okay. That's because, so the max force factor is the lowest growth factor, which means, and the reason I did that is because I wanted to limit the hit distance. I wanted to limit its impact on how fast something can move. So just even if the hit distance is less than 1, it'll still go, or less than 0.1, it'll still only go, only divide default force by the max force factor still. So the reason for that is just because, 1, those not a number problems, and 2, you don't want it to just instantly fling past an asteroid if that's a if it's too close, because that's not how things work. But yeah, that looks more like what the behavior was before. So the only problem is this. That confuses me a little bit. So if it's one problem is that I think this site box should not. Yeah, this site box has too much impact on from when something is far from it. It's nice to be pushed to the side when you're far, but the problem is that it tries to look from too far away, and then it continues doing it. So like if it reaches its destination, and then it turns to its destination and something is past its destination, then it continues anyway. So it shouldn't be doing that. So I don't know if I should even be looking past the... Well, actually, I shouldn't be looking past the destination. So I should have a max box length, and I should also have a destination limit. So I wonder how I can do that. So yeah, this is not the most exciting exciting work right now, because it takes a lot of thought and frustration, and there's not really a way around that. Get a version force. Actually, where am I drawing? How far? I'm drawing a direction box. Okay, if obstruction found. How long is the obstruction box? Detection distance. Okay, so it's just an arbitrary 3. But it should be either the detection distance, or whichever one is smaller, the detection distance or the distance to the point. So where's we have a target here. Okay, so what we should do is pass this target. This should take a vector 3 target. Or vector 2 actually. And then this target distance to target was vector 2 dot distance. I'm just currently using the transforms position, but that should be passed as well. 1 for performance reasons, 2 for reusability. Don't judge me. So transform.position, detection, not that one, target. Okay, and so what we should do here is, instead of tell the bug or the box to be detection distance long, we should pick whichever one of these two things is smaller, so that if the distance is more than 3, then we'll always be using 3 as the detection distance. But if if the distance is less than 3, so if we're closer than the default box drawing, then we should start just drawing towards the destination, just so that we don't keep bumping into shit. So detection distance, and then also the distance to target. Math F. So I'm curious to see what impact this will have actually. One problem is this takes way too long to compile actually. I should just have a separate project for this, honestly. Oh, yep, that's a pretty cool effect. See the box shrinks. Okay. And also my bounds are too big. Okay, so I'm curious. Okay, okay. So what if I do something that's very close to this asteroid? It'll shrink. Okay, yeah, it's not a significant impact. But it eventually, eventually it reaches its destination. Okay. It seems to work a lot better. It's not good. It's very bad, but it's better. Yeah, that's more, it's more appropriate actually. I need a way to determine whether or not this is gonna happen. I need a system that tells it like um, when it's this close to something it needs to stop, so that it doesn't just like run circles around a collider. Okay, that's a change I've been meaning to do for the past forever actually, and I just never got to it. Let's see what else. Get aversion force, target from which to avert. Get perpendicular counterclockwise direction. That's what I was trying to describe at the beginning when I was trying to say to the right. In reality, it was. Oh wait, actually, this is the left. Get perpendicular counterclockwise direction. Okay. Follow path to destination now. Follow multi-point. Okay. Well, since I only have about 9 minutes left, I think I will just go a little bit further through the project. So, actually, I said earlier that I would show this thing. So, I'd made it more boxy than what I was showing earlier because of the way that pixels kind of get screwed up. So, I'm still thinking about making these less round. They're kind of bothering me a bit with the design. And I think everything should be sharper, because I kind of learned when I first made this it was very round, and then it would just, well, one, it would pixelate in a very awful way. It's actually still pixelating, and I need to figure out, I need to fix my system to be, I might want a pixel perfect system. I'm not sure I want to go through the headache of setting it up, but if it's going to look terrible, then I really do need to fix it. I mean, what does this look like full screen? Yeah, I can tell. So as for the rest of the project, I will bring up this trader, I think is what it is. Yeah. So, actually what I worked on last time was the detection of ships. I mean, right now what I'll show you is I kind of have this prompt down here. It shows you, you know, press which key, and it actually is dynamic, and it was pretty fun to implement. So I press on something, and these guys start talking. Then I reach this trade screen that also actually works. You know, and I buy and sell stuff, and you'll see all that gunfire in the background is because I was testing whenever I hold down, these guys will fire, and also this one is going to move. So that's what happens when you test too many things with just the mouse click. So the other thing that I worked on was like there's a detection now, like if you walk into a into one of these, then it'll start shooting at you. Actually, there's a bug. I'm going to disable that script that makes it move. Why is everything disabled? Okay, there. I think it's trader gunship. So let me AI fire test player, local avoidance controller. I don't need that. Oh, you know what? I'll just change the spot listener. Unspotted, unobscured, on viewing. Huh, no, that's not the right one. That's weird. Why are there two local avoidance controllers on this? It's not this one. Is it in here, ship controller? On human actor was unspotted human actor. Yeah, there it is. Okay. I'm gonna move this move to, and I'm just gonna make him shoot at it. So it should be, I don't need to print it. It should just be looking at the player on viewing. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So what I did last time was I just made a quick test to make it fire at the player. So I'm just gonna go ahead and show that. So there's that. It was pretty fun to implement because I hadn't been working on combat at all. And every time you do work on one of these common things, there's always something more to do, and there's always a different way of implementing it, even though you think, oh, this was done 1,000 times before. And by the way, what I'm doing right now is mining. So there's basically the system in this is that this light that's in front of me, I'm activating that. That is the prospector. And if I hover over a location where there's an ore node, then it'll expose it. And I've got a drill and I've got a mining laser, so I can mining laser these things. And there's my buggy AI. Go away, over there. There's my buggy AI having fun with the asteroids, so that I can pick these up. I got an inventory where I can see them, and I also can craft things. So. Advanced artificial intelligence in 3D game for enemies. Okay. So, a bit on that. For one, I am not advanced in that area. I kind of want... Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely want to do a video on that. I think in general you'll use a... You definitely would want to use an asset, because that kind of stuff already exists. But I think it's definitely something worth talking about, because there's quite a bit on that. I mean, there's the question of a good system that works kind of in every situation that you would want. And there's also the question of, in your game, how it's supposed to behave. So there's kind of the element of both computer science and game design combined there that you need to navigate through. So I'll write that down. I'll do a video on that and see if I can use some pre-made assets to help with the example, actually. So for sure. Let me see if I can find where follow path is at end of path. I want to see how this get steering works. Calculate the time to collision. Okay. So he checks the time to collision and calculates, I I'm guessing a steering based off of that. So let's see. If we're going to collide with no separation, or if we, yeah, no problem. Could I briefly go over how to display multiple mesh objects? Very cool to see you stream. Awesome, thanks. So how to display multiple mesh objects? Can you elaborate? Because, I mean, multiple mesh objects. Are you saying an object with multiple meshes, or are you saying multiple objects that have meshes? Because obviously, I mean, I guess you could throw out multiple objects with meshes, but I'm not quite sure which one of those you mean. How to display multiple mesh objects. Okay, so rigid body dot collider position minus first target dot collider position. Okay, so, looked at your tutorial on mesh objects using vertices. Would like to put about 100 of them on the map. Found that putting all of them in a for loop was not working. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, you could do it in a couple of ways. I mean, I don't quite remember how my configuration of meshes was in that video. But yeah, I know that I was setting vertices, and I think that I was... Oh, you said, I also have random coordinate generation for them, so each object within the script should have random coordinates. Yeah, okay, so here's the simple way is you could just use game objects, right? So you could just use a for loop, you know, for a number. So let's say you want 10, well, you want 100. So let's say, you know, count to 100 with a basic for loop. And then with that, you know, you would pick your random coordinates. And we're going to assume that the random coordinates don't make an overlapping. Well, I will assume for the sake of this example that the coordinates don't overlap. So they make a, like, correct polygon. And so, you know, just you'd link them up like that video would say, where you set up the triangles and the vertices and all that, and then you recalculate the UV. Then you would just apply for each of those game objects that you make, or I guess that you iterate over. You can either make them ahead of time, which probably don't do that, or you can instantiate them, or you can pool them. But either way, through that for loop, you probably want to just give each of those game objects a mesh filter, and then just generate one of those meshes and connect them in that for loop, and apply them to the mesh filter. There shouldn't be a reason for a for loop not working. I mean, it depends on what you were seeing. So if the meshes weren't being displayed at all, then perhaps some, you know, could kind of be anything. So it's I can't really know without seeing code, but you know, several things could come to mind depending on how it was. I mean, like, one, maybe your for loop wasn't actually iterating correctly. Maybe there's a typo somewhere that makes it just stop. There's also, you could have been setting the, you could have been configuring the meshes incorrectly, so then they, maybe the triangles messed up or they were on the wrong positions or something, or maybe they're facing the wrong axis. Then you could have never applied the mesh to the mesh filter, or maybe your game object or mesh filter wasn't active. So there's quite a few different scenarios, but it sounds like you got the right idea. If it has, like I would recommend isolating the problem. First, have your random number generation. You're not putting the shape into a constructor. Okay, as in you were not creating a new mesh, because it could be that. I think that's how, I believe that's how, I mean, it's been a while. Let me look at the documentation. Unity create mesh. Mesh generator. Let's see. Actually, this isn't. I remember this one. Mesh.vertices. So I believe that you want to make a new mesh. So let me see. Yeah, so they reference a mesh filter. They create a new mesh, and then they tell the mesh filter to use that mesh. Then I don't think you don't need to pass it into the constructor. You just make a mesh, but you need to make sure that you give the mesh a vertices array. So what they do here is they make a new vertices array, and then they populate it. So what you would do is you would have a for loop here, and you would get and you would iterate over those coordinates that you generate. So imagine that you have a function that generates those coordinates, iterate over the array returned from that function, and then you can, actually you wouldn't even need to iterate over that. You could just return a vertices array from that function, pass it into the mesh here. And then the triangles, I remember that was a little bit weird. I think that's based off of index. So yeah, 0, 2, 1. I don't quite remember how that worked, but yeah, I mean, it could be a few, it could be a few different reasons why. If you want, you can actually you can just send me an email of the code, and I can help you out with it later. Because I do have to actually. And would you do a new mesh for each new one? Yes, you would. You would need to create a new mesh for each time that you iterate, unless you wanted one giant mesh. But it depends on how you want. Here, I mean, I'll post my email. Here in the chat. You can literally send me anything, or send me the code, or ask me just a question, and I'll work with you over that. Because I do have to close the stream off for now. But yeah, I do this stream every Friday at 9 p.m. for an hour. So yeah, be sure to check back if you guys are interested. And I will see you on the next one. And you can also just, again, shoot me an email there, and I'll work with you guys on that. So talk to you guys soon.